I remember only fragments of my life before. It was a foreboding place, an unwelcoming place, much like where I find myself now. There was a deal and a task. I was trying to get home. I was serving penance for something. I think I deserved it. It felt like purgatory, though at the time I thought I was in hell. I didn't finish the task. I faltered, became weak. I did something unbecoming. No, something awful. I remember a knife and Mountain Dew. Did I kill a man who was drinking Mountain Dew? Did I kill a man for his Mountain Dew? I have no discernible memory of who I am, only pieces. The last images I can recall are disturbing. What kind of man was I? As I have sat alone here in this strange alleyway, concrete, vivid memories have begun to surface, but they are not mine. I remember the history of another man, or a former man, Al Simmons. That was my task, reading and critiquing items related to a fictional character created by Todd McFarlane called Spawn. I remember every comic, every game, every television episode, and how I felt about all of it. I remember my pent-up aggression and my agitation. And now I find myself in the precise situation Spawn himself was at the very beginning. I knew this all felt familiar. What is happening to me? This is not my body. Perhaps this is a very sick joke, and I have the distinct feeling I brought it upon myself. Perhaps I have left purgatory, and this is my eternal hell. Appropriate. Spawn and Mountain Dew. The two things I have the most vivid images of in my mind. My memory seems surprisingly selective. Now my veins course with Mountain Dew, and at the absence of any kind of writing utensil, I decided to be resourceful and use what I have at my disposal. I feel surprisingly comfortable writing with my own blood. Inside the trash can, amongst the refuse, I discovered this notebook and a comic, Spawn the Undead #2. The issue directly following the last story I can recall. My task, once again, is clear. And now I fear my punishment may be doing this for all eternity. But do I dare defy whatever powers that be again? Al Simmons would refuse to play Hell's games, only to discover he was, in fact, playing right into Malbolge's hands all along. But reviewing a comic book is not the same as destroying lives for the benefit of evil. I do not want to be Spawn, despite my current appearance. But my defiance of something more powerful than myself is what led me here. I can only imagine the price for further treachery. Spawn the Undead appears to be a series of one-off stories in which the newly self-emancipated Spawn attempts to be a check against the unjust behaviors of both heaven and hell, interceding in situations where the innocent need vindicating, or, probably more often, when the guilty need removing. I have to wonder why some of the same kinds of single-issue stories in the main title weren't used for this book, since that is its premise, and the main book seemed to be stretching for time with most of them. I am impressed with this issue's moody, stylistic approach, and many of Dwayne Turner's dramatic and mysterious poses for Spawn as he haunts yet another man obsessed with occult magic, using that knowledge for his own means and uninterested in who gets hurt in his quest to cheat the system with regards to what happens to his immortal soul. This is far too close to the Mark story, except Travis is much less developed and is missing the distinct personality and attitude that made Mark interesting. Travis is into dark arts because he was intense in college, and somehow it consumed him to the point where he was willing to engage in rituals involving sacrificing babies. It would be nice to know how a man who visits an old friend, Sheila, her name is Sheila, who clearly remembers a time when he was more well-adjusted, becomes so extreme. This conversation serves as a framework to deliver exposition about Travis's problem. He conjured a demon and made a deal with it, his soul for all the demon's knowledge. He tries to use this pact as a loophole to keep his soul out of hell, like Mark looked for a method to be powerful in hell. Travis asks the demon how to avoid going to hell, and the demon can never get his soul once it tells him that, because hell doesn't really have you until you enter there. That logic is laughably faulty. How is Travis holding up his end of the bargain if he makes it impossible for the demon to get what it was promised? The demon says it's not its knowledge to impart, only the hellspawns, because Spawn's job now apparently is sending all bad souls into hell, even though Al Simmons is the only active hellspawn on Earth and he never filled that function. Who has been filling that role while Spawn was brooding? And what about all those other spawns that refuse to work for hell? The story pretends Al is the first one to think of that. Even if the demon had that knowledge, why would it be obligated to impart it if, by doing so, it doesn't get its payment? So Spawn goes after Travis, not to do Hell's bidding, but because Travis did terrible things, like killing babies, and secretly leads Travis to a taxi driven by a demon possessing a cab driver, who I can only assume is the demon he made the pact with. This issue is making up lore and rules in a desperate attempt to involve Spawn in this story, and it is quite convenient Spawn gets interested in Travis as a target the moment he tries his loophole. The obvious message is you cannot cheat fate, and harming others to save yourself makes you more deserving of your terrible fate. I can relate. A poorly executed story, but with a good, haunting ambiance. Signed, Unknown.